A top Chinese general has threatened to attack Taiwan if there is no other way of stopping the island from becoming independent.
Did you get that? If not, listen to it again.
The island from becoming independent.
Get it?
Independent. Independent. Independent.
So this news anchor is saying that the Chinese will attack Taiwan if it becomes independent. And we all know that Taiwan is an independent country. It has its own military, government and president. So why China still claims Taiwan? And by the end of this video, you will know why China has failed to conquer Taiwan. In 1949, Mao Zedong proclaimed the creation of the People's Republic of China. While he was doing this, the Chinese Civil War was still raging on, with the Kuomintang opposition fleeing to the island of Taiwan, earlier known as Formosa. And by 1951, all of the mainland China, including Tibet, Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, were invaded and captured. Now, CCP controls Tibet, Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, a total area of 4.076 million square kilometers, and the island of Hanai was under the control of Chinese Communist Party. For perspective, the total area occupied by CCP under Mao was more than the area of India, and the regime has doubled its territory, which raises the obvious question: why Mao was not able to conquer Taiwan? Taiwan is just an island with an area of 36,193 square kilometers. What was the first reason that Mao still needed to consolidate the Communist Party's hold on mainland China? Now, the Communist Armed Forces, the People's Liberation Army, which was about 3 times the size of the Kuomintang military. But numbers aren't everything. The PLA had a very small air force, whereas the Kuomintang had a modern one and made up of mostly American fighters and bombers. Also, PLA didn't have a navy, whereas the overwhelming majority of the Chinese navy had been taken to Taiwan. Mao stationed troops along the coastline and prepared for an invasion on the remaining Kuomintang position, and the closest of which was the Jingming County Island, which was just 7 kilometers away from the Chinese mainland. When the go-ahead was given, the invasion, to put it mildly, it was a disaster. Every PLA soldier died. This huge setback wasn't enough to deter Mao, and he ordered plans for the final conquest of Taiwan to be drafted. The plan was simple: to buy as many as transport sea vehicles from the Soviets and overwhelm the island with sheer majority. However, this plan was scrapped because, frankly, it was a stupid one, and also Mao was concerned that the United States would intervene if he had invaded, which he was right about, because the United States placed its naval fleet between China and in Taiwan in the Formosa Strait, and made it clear to the Mao that any invasion would also mean war with United States. However, by this point, Mao had another issue to deal with, something that came from nowhere, something that Mao never expected. Korean War had just begun next door. The Korean War halted Mao's expansion plan, which gave Taiwan a breathing space to reorganize, as North Korea was being defeated by the United States force, and for Mao, this will be a great threat for his regime, which is a democracy on his border. So Mao intervened in Korean War. They saw direct fighting between Chinese and American forces, and importantly, so United States President Harry Truman commits to defend non-communist regime in the area, including the Chiang Kuomintang government in Taiwan. In 1953, a ceasefire ended the fighting on the Korean peninsula, thus ending the Korean War. And so Mao turned his attention back to Taiwan, and oh boy did he, because the next year he ordered the selling of the Jingming Island, to which the Taiwanese government responded tit for tat. Things began to escalate, and President Truman did three things. First of all, he sent reinforcement to Taiwan. Second, he asked Congress to pass legislation committing the US to defend Taiwan in the event of invasion. And third, he threatened to nuke China, which worked, as Mao, somewhat opposed to being nuked, ordered his forces to stand down. And this threat convinced Mao of one thing, that China needs to have its own nuclear weapons if it was ever going to stand up to the United States or ever hope to assert itself over Taiwan. However, before these nuclear weapons were finished, Mao ordered shelling on the islands again for the third time, because at this point, why not? It was something to do, I guess. This time the Air Force got involved and hundreds of people died. President Eisenhower threatened to invade the mainland if things didn't calm down, which they promptly did. Now, this was the last time that China attempted to forcibly capture territory from Chiang Kai-shek government. Mao died in 1976, and his successor preferred a policy of peaceful reunification. In the end, Mao was not able to conquer Taiwan for one very simple reason. He could not. You may ask why? Because point 1. The US Navy sat between China and Taiwan, and it was by far the most powerful navy in the world, and where Mao tried to use force, the nuclear retaliation by the United States was an ever-present threat. Second point, not to mention that any attempt by Mao to take the island would have been costly in lives and money, which, given the fact he was trying to build a revolutionary government, was something that he needed more than the Taiwan, as Mao's revolution broke the China's economy and infrastructure. Third point, the most important of them was the people of Taiwan, who were fighting for democracy and freedom, whereas Mao's forces were fighting for an occupation. This was the key difference of intention and will. Here is a video from US archive on Battle of Quemoy on the island of Jingming.
Chinese nationalist soldiers spring into action on shell-torn Quemoy Island as a warning alert sends frightened youngsters and their parents scurrying for shelter, wondering if this is the long-threatened communist attack on their beleaguered outpost. Barely 5 miles from the mainland, Chiang Kai-shek's troops are ever alert, pledged never to surrender Quemoy. Coastal batteries are ready to bark death to the communists, plotting their evil schemes across the sullen sea.
Suddenly, the Chinese nationalist offshore island of Quemoy has become the red-hot target for communist artillery,
which shows the determination of the Taiwanese army fighting against the communists. Thank you for watching. This is SiachenXfiles.